Hey guys, it's Wednesday, March 15th, and this is Newswave. So the first topic I kind of want to get into is a little touchy. I wasn't sure if I should talk about it. I was kind of on the fence, but I am a fan of his work in the past, and really he was a big reason I was into YouTube in the first place a while ago after he started really showing up on the scene, and that is this whole thing that's going on with JonTron or JonTron. So I don't get very political on this channel because it's not a good idea in the first place, but mostly because this is like a gaming channel, technology channel, whatever you want to call it, and it's definitely not a political channel. But this is something that's very interesting because it kind of centers around gaming YouTubers, because now, of course, a lot of gaming YouTubers, especially the bigger ones that have a lot of following and influence, are starting to talk about him. And what happened was he went onto a debate with another YouTuber, and they went on a live stream together, and he did his best to defend and talk about his beliefs in some very controversial stuff. First, they were talking about more political stuff, immigration, then he went into race and stuff like that, and it gets really hazy. And when you go into his Reddit now or his Twitter, he seems to still, especially his Twitter, he seems to really still enforce what he believes in this case, and his debating wasn't very good. His wording wasn't very good at all, and it's pretty cut and dry what he believes in at this point. And it's very tough, especially when you're a fan of his work like I've been, or other people. You can see if you go on Reddit, there's a lot of people who are obviously disappointed in the situation, and you know, it's kind of tough. I have a feeling there's a lot of people around him that maybe have known him differently than what he showed himself there on camera. It's hard to say unless you actually know him in person. I do not, so I cannot speak for this. I don't want to speak on this. This isn't really an opinion thing, but if you take a look at his Twitter, if you go on YouTube and watch the stream, you'll see what I'm talking about. It kind of goes back to the point of YouTubers in general. If you're not a political channel, you probably shouldn't talk about politics at all or really get into any of this. I think especially if you have a following the size that he does, it's not a good idea at all to get into this stuff. Really, that's something you leave off of camera, maybe in your living room, maybe talk about with your friends, maybe talk about with your wife or whoever. I don't think that's something you get on camera or you go on Twitter and you start talking about, especially not on Twitter. Oh my gosh, if you go on Twitter and start talking about that stuff, it can be spread around so fast and people can take it out of context. It's not a good idea. I think now a lot of YouTubers are starting to realize this, at least I hope they do, that if you want to be political, go start a political channel. You know, keep it out of whatever your niche is, whether it's gaming or anything really, Let's Plays, or maybe you're doing stuff like, I don't know, gardening or something. Just don't really bring political stuff up, and especially not the kind of stuff he brought up, because it obviously at this point his reputation is definitely damaged. It's not like destroyed, but it's damaged to the point where people are unsubscribing from him. People aren't sure. They're debating if he's like racist and stuff like that, and it's just not a good look. So really it's something that's a shame, and it's disappointing to a lot of people. I think after a while people will forget, but it's going to be a little while. So I'm sure I hope it doesn't get worse. That's all I'm saying. I'm hoping it just kind of levels out and then just goes back down as people forget and we move on to the next thing. So we just talked about something controversial, and of course there's something else written here that's pretty controversial as well that I figure I would talk about. And of course everyone saw Jim Sterling's review on Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it's fine because it's again, as much as reviews try to be objective, a lot of the times there's always a little opinion in every review. That's just the way it is, because you are sharing your experience or how you feel about the game, and that's fine. And he kind of came to the table with a score that a lot of people felt was too low for the game, but really if it's his review, it's his opinion, it can be whatever he wants it to be. And he does point out things of the game that aren't perfect, obviously, whether it's the frame rate or the weapons that break or trying to climb when it rains. There are problems with the game, or at least things that are annoying to people. And was it worth the 7 out of 10? I don't think it's a 7 out of 10 game. I think it's higher, but that's my opinion. If I wrote a review and made it higher, then that should be fine. If I was, by the way, his review is not even the lowest on Metacritic, so I don't know why people are DDoSing his site. The lowest one is something from Slant Magazine, 6 out of 10. And so once his review goes up on Metacritic, his and probably the other one lowers the score from 98 to 97 now. And unless other reviews come out to then raise it back up. So allegedly, fans, which I assume are fans of the game, DDoSed his site, which basically sends tons of bots and traffic to the site to then slow it to a crawl or crash the site completely. and he was kind of dealing with that. I know there's a lot of people that don't like him, but I also know that it is something, as a reviewer, you should be able to put your own opinion piece out. I don't think it's fair for one person to be destroyed over their opinion, in this case, with a game that maybe they didn't enjoy as much as the next person. You know, your opinion would be different from my opinion for a couple games. There's games I don't like that other people do. So just because critical appeal is one way, especially across the board, you should not be pressured into giving a higher score because if you don't enjoy the game, you should put your truthful, honest opinion out there and still give the good points of the game, because you're really overall just trying to help someone decide if they want to purchase the game. If you actually read through his review, it still sounds like he is telling you should buy the game. So overall, I think it was a bad move on Gamer's part, whoever was DDoSing the site and complaining heavily about it. I think we just really need to step back, realize it's a game that is being graded here. It's not life or death, and we'll just move on anyway. Most people will forget about the review in a month or two anyway. And with those out of the way, thankfully, I can move on to more straightforward news. We have Walmart, which actually got restocks yesterday of the Switch Joy-Con with the neon Joy-Con system, and it's sold out in like 15 minutes. So it does at least look like Walmart is getting more back in stock. This would tell me that maybe Best Buy, Amazon, another big box store would probably get more in, and then they would sell out immediately as well. They went up, I think it was around 10 or 11 a.m. yesterday, and they were gone so fast. I mean, I went to this page just to look, and it was still add to cart, but I have a feeling if I sat there and looked at it for as long as I did, if I had refreshed the page, it probably would have been out of stock. But this just tells me that if you're still looking for one, there is a chance that they will be back in stock throughout March. So you just have to keep an eye out. Sign up for whatever email list they leave you. A lot of times, like Amazon will leave you a list that says, put your email here, we'll alert you when it's back in stock. You just got to keep an eye on your email and make sure it's not going to the spam folder, because when they get them back in, they send out emails, and then it's first come, first serve. Speaking of sales, we'll jump from there right over to the estimated Nintendo Switch sales. I made a video about this yesterday. If you have not seen that, check out the card up here. But there are big estimates by SuperData that are claiming that the Switch has actually sold 1.5 million units in its first week. And this actually makes a lot of sense because Nintendo was claiming to have 2 million units throughout. SuperData believes that there are more sales even after that 7th day that would actually account for even more units added to this total, like significant units, not like, 10 or 12 sold here and there, like thousands more. So overall, this tells me that they probably will reach that 2 million mark, because more will slowly trickle in through March to get the last 500,000 out worldwide. And then April apparently is another big shipment, probably in the millions, because they do anticipate Mario Kart to be a big seller, which it will. It's the next big game from Nintendo for their Nintendo system. So I think it's good. I think the Switch is moving along as expected, and it's really going to see what happens in May. May is going to be a big month for them, because that third month where the Wii U really started to kind of fall off and slowly come to a crawl for sales. So if the Switch can stay strong in this third month and then into the summer, I think Nintendo actually has something here on their hands with the Switch. If you're a fan of System Shock, you're going to be super happy to know that System Shock 3 is now being financially backed and is coming to consoles. Now, you may remember us talking about Starbreeze before with Psychonauts 2, and it looks like they're just going along and picking up another game with System Shock 3. You may remember the old System Shocks. They were on the old computers and everything. They were very creepy, kind of scary games, but they were actually really well done overall on the PC, and I was hoping that eventually they would come to, like a newer one would come out and come to consoles as well, and Starbreeze is putting in $12 million to publish this game on consoles as well as the PC. Now, I've looked around to see if they mentioned any systems in particular. It looks like they're still in kind of the early planning stages for System Shock 3, so there's no actual consoles named, but we can assume it would probably be a PS4, Xbox One, and maybe the Switch, depending on how Nintendo, I guess, works out a deal with them. It's also possible, especially with what we've seen recently, that for some reason games are going to the PS4 and the Switch, but not the Xbox. So it's hard to say, but we do know it's at least going to Windows PCs, which means it probably will go to the Xbox. But if it's going to consoles and going to computers, that's great, and we'll just have to see more as we go along. There's really just not much to the game yet. All we know that it is at least getting funding to be published, and it's on the way. And if you're like me, you may have thought that the Kinect on the Xbox One was pretty much done at this point. I mean, it works well for navigating menus with your voice, or I guess not using a controller or using your hand. But in this case, there's a company that just doesn't want to let it go. This is from Virtual Air Guitar Company, and they are bringing their new game to the Kinect with the Xbox One, where it's going to be used exclusively with the Kinect pretty much. It's called Air Guitar Warrior. You may have heard of this game. It's exactly what it sounds like, where you use the Kinect to play air guitar. And it's actually kind of interesting. Now, I think they've had one before previously, and this is more like a sequel for them, but it does have 50 hand-painted levels. I do kind of like the visuals of this game, actually. It looks kind of neat. 13 bosses, 10 album covers that apparently you can star in. So there's a lot from this fact sheet that they have sent over here, and it's kind of interesting. There's 21 vehicles that include dinosaurs and sharks with lasers, so it sounds like the game has a sense of humor to it. I don't know if any of you guys have played any of the previous ones or maybe taken a look at this. You'll have to let me know down in the comments, but they sent this over just for me to take a look at, and I thought it was kind of funny, so I thought I'd include Newswave for you guys just in case you haven't heard of it, or maybe if you have a Kinect and you're just looking for something to do with it. Well, here you go. Take a look. It's coming out March 29th, actually, so it's out in 2 weeks. That's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about any of the stuff we talked about today, whether it's the whole JonTron thing, the Jim Sterling thing. Again, be civil, though, down there, guys. Don't get too crazy, of course. Or maybe you're still trying to get the Switch and you missed out on that Walmart explosion that happened for about 10 minutes yesterday. Or maybe you're excited for System Shock 3. Let me know down in the comments below, guys. I will see you next time.